Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Motorcycle Rewind. And in this episode, we determine how much does a free motorcycle cost? How much did the 1983 free GPZ1100 end up costing us? Okay guys, before we get into the money we spent on the GPZ, I want to talk a little bit more about what do you think it's worth? Because these bikes, I believe, are on the come up, but I'm not real sure on what they're worth. If you have an idea, go ahead and post in the comment below. I'm going to share with you kind of how I look to see what things are worth, or what they appraise for, because they're only worth what somebody's going to give you money for. So I look for comps, and there's several resources I use. Okay, so the first resource I use is the Comprehensive Vintage Motorcycle Price Guide. You can buy these. I'll put a link in the description. If I look to 1983 and I go GPZ from $750 to $5,500. Okay, that's just a reference. You may say that mine's worth more than that. That could 100% be true. I don't know. The first step I always take is, let me look at this guy. That's the first thing I look up when I'm looking to buy a motorcycle too. Because I want to compare the price of the motorcycle versus what the appraised value could be based on the condition I'm buying it in. So the next thing I do, and super simple, is I just Google 1983 Kawasaki GPZ1100 value, and it'll give me another reference. And this is pretty much in line. Excellent in the book was 55, this is 51, and it goes from there. And then I go a little bit further. I start looking for auction results. I like to go to the Mecum auction for their site to see, okay, what have they traded for and when did they trade for that? I can look at this one, 3,800 bucks, 6,000, 4,400. So we're probably right in the same range. And then I go one more and I go to Haggerty, because they're going to insure it, and they're going to insure it, and they're going to bet that I'll insure it based on the condition up to this amount in case something happens, that's what I'll pay you. Now they may undervalue it, but they're also going to track trends. Are they going up or down? And so in this one, you see Concourse is 9,700. It's up 10%, and then fair condition is $3,700. Now I think that's on the high side, but I could be wrong. These early 80s sport bikes are really starting to come up. We've seen that in the last couple of years. All that being said, this guy is not for sale. We're not selling it. It's not going anywhere, but I like to just know that, okay, the value of the collection is X number of dollars. And what can I do to grow those assets? So guys, let me know in the comments down below, how do you value or how do you appraise your motorcycles when you're looking to buy one, looking to sell one? How do you come up with a price? We're going to get into what we spent on the GPZ. Now, you guys have to remember the condition that we got this free motorcycle in. It was not in this current state, although most of the things on it are original equipment. Right? It did come with the bike, so we did get that. It just wasn't in that condition. Let's get into what we did. So like I've said before, guys, I keep a spreadsheet on every motorcycle I have. I'm going to go through the order of what did we spend from the beginning to end before we took our trip to Colorado, and then what have we spent since. Okay guys, let's break down the cost on the free GPZ to see if it was actually worth it. So we started off with coils. We needed, well, not coils, a coil. The right coil did not work, so we replaced it with one we had in stock, and that was $18.63. Then we moved on to spark plugs, which was $10.76 for NGK B70S is the model they are. And then I needed 4 exhaust gaskets. Didn't really need that to get it running. I needed that to stop it from shooting flames out the exhaust. So that was a safety hazard that we were dealing with, so we could put the exhaust off. That was one of the first things we did. But to get it running, to go from that abandoned motorcycle that was full of, that was seized, that we freed up, all we did to get it running was put a coil on it, 4 spark plugs, and shot some starting fluid into the throttle body. And that's what got it running. Then We pulled the throttle body off, cleaned it up, put it back on, spent $0 on that. We just cleaned it, put it back, and it functioned. Then we put some exhaust gaskets on, and all of that to get this motorcycle running, not riding, just making noise, was $43.16. So we had the engine running, but if you remember in the early videos of this, we had to hot wire this. We had a couple of batteries running because this switch didn't work. So we had to buy this switch, which cost us $35.99. We also, sticking up front, we also bought a SPEEDO cable, although the SPEEDO doesn't work. We'll get to that in just a minute. We had to buy a SPEEDO cable that was $13.99. And then we moved into forks. We had to rebuild the front end because it had that GSXR front end and swing arm that did not work. The wheels were too small. It just didn't fit the proportions of the motorcycle. Such a beautifully designed motorcycle, and then to have it be kind of hodgepodge, it didn't work. So the forks were $90. Then we had to get into adding a rear master cylinder because we did not have one. That was $19.99. We bought an Amazon special. And then we needed a brake pedal. That was $21.60. Brake pads, because we were planning on riding it for 3,000 miles, that was $24.95. Then we needed to add a clutch perch. Clutch perch so that we could get this going, which was $14.79. And last in that set was the gas cap, because if you remember, we had to drill the gas cap out to get it off so that we could then clean the tank. That was $38, which brings our running total up to $302.47. Now, with that, guys, know that we've got everything back sorted. We had gotten the swing arm back from the original owner. We had gotten the fender and the wheels so that we were set. So we're still only $302 into the motorcycle. Okay, this next set is probably where we start to spend the biggest amounts of money with the fewest pieces and parts that we bought. We had to buy front and rear tires. So the front tire was $76.35. The rear tire was $90.99. And to have those tires mounted cost us $100. We had them mounted and balanced, which that was the best money I spent because I didn't have to worry about it. Then the only other thing in that set was, in that group, was we added wheel bearings. So when we had the wheels off, we figured we'd put new wheel bearings in. So new wheel bearings, tires, and having those tires mounted was $306.10. So that brings our running total up now to $608.57. Now, we still don't have a riding motorcycle because we're still missing some parts. We still don't have a chain, and we still don't have the sprocket to be able to drive that chain. So at this point, we're $608.57 in it. We don't know if it works. We know that the engine runs because I had been cycling the engine, heat cycling the engine every day. You know, really running it through. And at this point, we had changed the oil several times. So we knew what was happening with the engine, but we still didn't know if the transmission worked. At this point, I had pulled the clutch cover off, and we had taken the clutch apart and cleaned it by scrubbing it on the concrete and then putting it back together. Didn't spend any parts on that, any money on that. We didn't buy any parts. That we just took it apart, put it back together. That's what we did with most of this motorcycle. The entire fuel injection is where it came from the factory. We just took it apart, cleaned it, put it back together. So now we're at the end of the line. We're getting close. This is the last week before our trip. And I'm still waiting for my sprocket coming from CM and related hardware coming from CMS&L. And I still need to locate a 630 chain, which that was something I thought was going to be easy to get to. I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know that they're hard to come by, even online, hard to come by. Thankfully, the chain we found at a local Honda dealer, and I drove over there, went and picked it up. It was 125 bucks. The sprocket and related hardware was $56.05. And then that's what we had purchased at that point to now the bike runs and rides. We had this all together. The first time we rode the motorcycle was because I had to wait for a clamping tool, not a clamping tool, but a chain breaker so I could do the rivet. So I could press the rivet into the chain. So we didn't get that done until the Saturday before we left, which is the reason why the SPEEDO did not work on the trip, because it wasn't until the Saturday before we left on Tuesday. At that point, we're like, SPEEDO's not going to work, so we pulled one off of another bike, we stuck it, zip tied it to the inside of the fairing, and we were good to go. So that's what we did with regards to that. The only other money we have spent on this motorcycle, so in this last set, we're talking about sprocket related hardware, chain. We added a fuel filter after the trip. We added an engine temperature sensor after the trip. And we added, well, and we're waiting on gauges to come in from Kevin from Scotland. He's sending us a set of gauges. And that is the fuel filter, $19.87. The engine temperature sensor was $16.45. The gauges were $51.05. So grand total for this motorcycle that sits right before you in all of its glory, for everything that you see on it, that was ridden since we got it, about 3,200 miles. We have a grand total in this free motorcycle, we have a grand total of $876.99. That's what it cost us. That's what this free motorcycle cost us. I'm gonna round it up to 900. This is a damn good looking $900 motorcycle. Is it perfect? No, but it's $900. Let me know what you think. You know, I think we did pretty good. And that is everything that we spent on it. And then the only other thing I need to wipe this thing out and it be done is I need to find a windshield, because this one is cracking. I need to find a windshield. I would like to find original turn signals for front and rear. And I would like to find the inner fender that goes right there. And that's it. And after that, it's 100% complete. Don't need to do anything else to it. I would like the original windshield instead of this. This was an aftermarket one. So if we had the original one, that would be perfect. And other than that, we'll just ride it like we stole it. It runs great. I've been riding it daily, and so it's perfect. Could we do some more work on it over time? Yeah, probably so. But that's still a windshield, turn signals, and that inner fender. Are we still sub $1,000, maybe $1,100? Yeah, for a 1983 GPZ1100, I think that runs and rides. Come on, I think that's pretty good. So guys, there you have it. Yet another episode of Motorcycle Rewind. Do me a favor, like, tag, share, and follow us on Instagram at Motorcycle Rewind, and go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And while you're in the subscribing mood, go ahead and wander on over to our friends, Brickhouse Builds, Gold Guy, Moto Mango, Ace Cafe Bikes, Mile Zero Racers, Pete's Classic Cycle, and Lady Moto Bang, and give those guys a subscribe too. Thanks again, guys, and have a great day.